returning to work. And what they can do is to ensure that mothers who have been on a maternity leave are aware that they have the right to have time and space to pump when they return to work. A great thing to offer is a gradual return to work, coming back part-time initially, can really help to ease mothers and babies into the separation and to help with maintaining breastfeeding. They want to have between 15 to 20 minutes of a flexible break time, which normally fits into what is already there for their break time. And they just need a place where they can go. I've even seen mothers set up like sort of a curtain off in a room. It doesn't need to be, you know, a great room. I know that Google here in Ann Arbor has a wonderful lactation room where they have I don't know if it's a massaging chair, but it looks like this wonderful recliner and a fridge. It doesn't need to be that fancy. It can really just be a space that is private, that probably has an electrical plug, somewhere where they can go and wash up afterwards. They don't even really need to have refrigeration. This is an example of a pump that a mother might use when she returns to work, and that you can have these little packages that have coolers with them to keep the milk cool. And that's really all that a mother needs to have. It's usually about between every 3 and 4 hours that a mother would need to express her milk when she's at work. And it's important for businesses to know that they are getting a wonderful return on their investment. Their breastfeeding employees will give them a return of about $3 on the dollar of investment. So if a company is putting together a program where they're supplying a pump, say, for their employees, or they're supplying education or access to breastfeeding support, anything that they invest into their breastfeeding employees is going to come back to them threefold, because they have a reduction in healthcare costs for those employees because their babies are healthier. So that's something called the Business Case of Breastfeeding, which is a national program that's been going around state to state and talks about all the different points that are important for companies to be aware of when they're considering breastfeeding programs for their employees. So the other side of the coin is about customers who are coming to business owners' establishments. And things that they can do are to make sure that there's a sign up somewhere. There's the international symbol for breastfeeding. They can put up, the Washtenaw County Breastfeeding Coalition has decals or little stickers that they can put up in their windows that say, breastfeeding is welcome here, so that customers are very clear that this is somewhere where they will not be harassed or asked to leave or treated poorly. And just make sure that they're being treated nicely while they're there.
Can you talk about a couple of the other local businesses who have won this award? You mentioned Google.
Yes, we've been, the coalition here in Washtenaw County has been running the awards program for, this is our 3rd year now. And we've had a number of small businesses that have had awards. Google, we have not actually gotten to be nominated yet. I know they have a program, but we haven't gotten them to nominate. So I'm hoping that they do come in sometime. But in order to recognize them, we need someone to step forward and say things are going well here. We've had University of Michigan hospitals, we've had St. Joe's, we've had University of Michigan School of Education. We've had lots of small businesses, many of which are women-run and mother-run. Some of those companies, like the Little Seedling in Ann Arbor, has a policy where the babies come to work with the mothers. So they will take their babies right along with them and really have no need for a pump at all because their baby is with them. Also, let me think of another. Altarium Institute is also another one that's received awards from us. And of course, the Washtenaw County, the WIC program and the Department of Public Health has been recognized as well.
Kelly, how do you feel about the fact that your situation led to the Ann Arbor City Council passing the local ordinance?
I was very pleased. For myself, I was appalled that it happened. I couldn't believe that, you know, this, in Ann Arbor, something like this would happen. I was really shocked. And so when the City Council did pass their resolution, I was very happy. And I was glad it was me because I am a very confident person. I was not going to stop breastfeeding. It was also my 2nd child, which I think gives you more confidence. So I was very happy to see that because I think it helps other mothers. Maybe the mom who, you know, she's not quite sure about when she's out in a public place if this is okay or not. And, you know, a lot of moms have difficulty in the beginning, and not difficulty because they're afraid to nurse in public, just there are sometimes, you know, relationships that the baby and the mother have to work a little harder at it to get breastfeeding going, and to have somebody interrupt you can really hinder that. So to have the City Council pass the resolution was really wonderful, and I think it's a great step in the right direction for all breastfeeding moms here.
That was another thing I was going to mention, actually, was that I was over at St. Joe's the other day and talking with a lactation consultant there in the hospital, where in the maternity ward where there's all these new babies, and I asked the lactation consultant, well, how many do you think of your new mothers are initiating breastfeeding? How many are starting there and not starting with formula? And she said probably 90%. And I know that overall, the statistics for Washtenaw County is about 80% initiation. So that is really wonderful, and we love to see that, but what we're talking about is duration. So you have so many mothers who are initiating breastfeeding, they're starting off, they're intending to breastfeed, but what happens between then and when they get to 6 months, when it drops off to something like 30%? So where did we lose all those mothers? And I think some of it's happening in the workplace when they're going back to work, and they don't feel supported, or they don't have an ability to take a break, or they don't feel like they can ask, because sometimes they have an issue of job security where they think, ooh, if I'm asking for this special treatment, I'm going to lose my job. So that's why the federal law is really important for protecting mothers' rights there. And then the other issue is being in public, and I think that happens actually sometimes even earlier than their return to work, is that they're out in public and they say, wow, you know, I can't do this because there's so many things up against me.
I think that's very true. I think if you're on a maternity leave that, say, is 6, 8, or possibly 12 weeks, if you encounter some social situation that someone asks you to stop or tells you that that's not okay here in a public place, then yeah, you are much more likely to have a response that, well, okay, say you're going back to work, well, okay, I'm going to go back to work anyways, so maybe I'll just go ahead with the bottle, and then, you know, maybe they start the bottle too soon. There is an optimum time to introduce a bottle in which you don't cause damage to the breastfeeding relationship. You don't have a diminishing milk supply because your baby prefers the bottle over the breast. And I think it is twofold, like you're saying. I was reading rates for Michigan from the CDC, and they had the rates average for 2005, 6, and 7. And Michigan does have really good initiation rates overall, the entire state. And to be exclusively breastfed up to just 3 months was less than 22%. You know, so it was a really low rate to exclusively breastfeed, which means at some point, more than likely, someone's introducing a bottle of formula, and perhaps it is the social barrier that's created by being denied access to breastfeed your child out in public.
And I like what you just said about the issue of supply. I think that's another misunderstanding that we see a lot of, is that a lot of people just don't understand, even the mothers themselves, that there is a delicate supply-demand thing that's happening as your body is establishing your milk supply. So if you're throwing a bottle in there of formula or of anything else, of water, if you're adding these other things in there, or you're trying to pump while you're breastfeeding your baby, or you go back to work and you're not pumping, you're affecting your milk supply, and you can end up not having enough milk to feed the baby. And so those mothers are stopping breastfeeding when they didn't intend to, just because they suddenly don't have enough milk.
We see this a lot in our meetings. I mean, this is one of the things that we do, is supporting moms in breastfeeding. And oftentimes the question is, you know, how do I know, you know, that I have enough, and, you know, how do I make sure? And we always talk about the supply-demand issue, which is why in public it's so difficult, because the idea that a small, very small infant is going to eat when you want it to, it doesn't work in a breastfeeding relationship. And you nurse, and your body produces milk, and then the next time the baby comes back to nurse, again, you produce milk, and the more you go back and forth in this relationship, as long as they're demanding it, you are going to create the supply. If you're out in public for, say, 4 hours, and you had to run to the grocery store, but you fed the baby before you left, and well, yesterday he slept for 4 hours, I can probably do this, and suddenly they want a nurse, and you don't do it, you're affecting your supply, and you're also causing yourself problems potentially. There are a lot of problems you can develop from not nursing your child.